Your voice, your choice coverage begins right now. John Webb sits down with Paulette Jordan, former Democratic nominee for Idaho governor, who is now running for U.S. Senate. This exclusive interview is brought to you by Albie's Gem Bar and Restaurant, serving your favorite cocktail and Wallace's most tender ribeye. Soul and Sayre, creating fresh and beautiful bouquets for that special someone. And the 1313 Club, Wallace's favorite saloon and grill, located in the heart of downtown. Your voice, your choice coverage begins right now.
Well, first of all, it's great to see you again. I think last time we spoke was a little over a year ago. What have you been up to?
Yeah, and you're a budding young star from Wallace. I love it. And congratulations from graduating high school, and you're here at U of I. It's very exciting to see you and your work now broadening out. So
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
So what have you been up to with the past, well, it's been a year now, over a year actually, 2018.
Yes.
What's been going on?
Been busy. It's been a very busy year. Since 2018, as you know, we had a very successful gubernatorial race in many different ways. And so that time, I tell people that we learned a lot of lessons from that race, and we just kind of picked up on the messaging because of the fact that we learned so much. Going all over the state, you're listening to a lot of people, and I took a lot of time hearing so many stories. A lot of those stories were involved with healthcare and education and being involved in our state, voting again, as well as the environment. And of course, being that the environment is so close to my heart and my culture and who I am, I definitely wanted to make sure that we rose up as a voice for nature. Yeah. So I was really activated on making sure that we are participating and working with local elected officials and trying to be more involved around the state to ensure that people understand that this movement that we created in 2018 is not lost on me, and that we're going to continue that movement and ensuring that we are going to fight for the voice of the people. Yeah.
And just a couple weeks ago, you announced your run for Senate. So I guess my first question is, why are you running for Senate?
Well, exactly, right? So we're doing it basically because of the same movement that we created in 2018. When we run, you run to fight for others. And, you look at our state and we're last in everything. We were last in education, we were last in healthcare, we were, even the way our people are treated by and large, the people who often go underrepresented in the state house, a lot of our folks are suffering. And when I ran initially, it was to represent those voices. Now I know that we are not represented when it comes to our representation in the U.S. Capitol. And that's exactly why I'm here. I offered basically to step up to the call to action when people were reaching out to say, we need someone who's going to represent us. You have shown that you are listening. We've seen your platform. We know what you stand for. And you walk your talk. And I basically stepped up to that call and said, I'm here and I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to fight for the people, but I also need people in Idaho to help me. And that's why I'm here at the University of Idaho. The students have reached out to say, we need a representative, and we're looking for encouragement. We're looking for a leader who is going to help us as well. As you heard, if you heard some of the questions in there, people are talking about higher education. They're talking about healthcare. They're talking about women's rights, and what does the future look like? And they want someone who's going to fight for them.
Well, in your run for governor, you lost to Brad Little by over 100,000 votes. Senator James Risch has held his seat for 12 years now. What's the possibility of you winning this election?
Huge. I think the possibility is great, and the opportunities are there. And a lot of people must understand that you have a representative who's been sleeping at the wheel for all these years, not representing the people, not listening to the voices of Idaho. And when you have someone who's been there for 12 years and not doing the work that is required, then you must understand that it's time that we have a leader who will listen, who is willing to do the work, and who will actually pay attention. We have a representative who is not only sleeping at the wheel literally and figuratively, but that's someone who we don't want to continue representing us for another 6 years. So I know that when people, when they're looking for a leader who represents them, they can see that in us, and that's why I see that as an opportunity, because people, whether they're Republican or Democrat or independent, they are willing to see what is there. They're seeing someone who is fiscally conservative, and myself, versus a representative right now who has not only doubled the debt since he's been in office, but who has been willing to cut taxes for the wealthy few, which means raising taxes on the poor in our society. And unfortunately, that has not been a very good advantage for those in Idaho.
Yeah. An article published by AP not too long ago, I think about a week or so ago, suggests that Idaho could be turning blue. Idaho recorded about 37,000 new residents last year. I kind of want to hear your reaction to that.
I think it's exciting that we have people who are open-minded and who are willing to see that Idaho is not the red state that it actually appears to be, but when people turn out to vote, things are different, and the layout of the land will change. And that means younger people who are going to be turning 18, who are far more invested into the climate crisis and far more invested into education and healthcare, and want to see their representative be more concerned about their future. Those folks are going to vote, and they're not going to vote based on party line. A lot of people say that they inherit the R, but in this state, in this day and age, like me, who I was one of those people who voted independently all my life. So I voted left or right, and I think those people are like me. They're going to want to be represented by someone who stands for freedom, someone who stands for fiscal accountability, and someone who's going to be a listener, who will actually be a true representative and who will be amongst the people and defend the land.
Let's say you do get elected. What is your strategy going to be going in to get things accomplished if Mitch McConnell continues as Senate Majority Leader?
If he's Majority Leader, that will certainly be a challenge for a lot of people in the country. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that we have an opportunity to win those few houses that are needing to be won to ensure that we have the majority. And that's why I think the country, once the presidential nomination goes through, people will then be able to focus on the Senate races across this country, and there are many. There are a lot of seats that are very vulnerable that probably our Democratic candidates can win. And I see Idaho as one of those places where we can actually flip a state from red to blue. But I'm not really about color, I'm really about balance. So I'm more so optimistic that we can win Idaho and then we can get other seats. But I do see that if that were the case, and if we weren't able to win the majority and I was able to get in, and when I win and take the seat, I could still see myself working with those across the aisle. I have a strong record. I'm already a nationally known leader. I've already been able to work with those on the left and the right. I've been very effective working with both sides of the aisle, especially in my 10 years of representing the tribes across this country from state to state. And I've been very effective working with both Mitch McConnell and other Republican leaders, both in the House and the Senate. So I can thoroughly say that I'm very confident in working with any leader and do what it takes. And of course, being someone who has a background in negotiations and conflict resolution, I think that will be very helpful because people see me as someone who's very pragmatic. And as a fiscal conservative, my solutions, I think, are equitable for everyone. So I do see us being very successful in that regard.
If you do get elected, what's the first thing on your agenda that you want to tackle?
I think because there are so many looming issues, I often have seen the environment because we have seen so many concerns across the spectrum, from water quality to air quality in our land. I want to be the champion when it comes to not only fiscal accountability, but to the environment. For those of us here in Idaho, they have to understand that our state has the most mountains and rivers, and we have a lot to protect. And a lot of us come here because we want to enjoy that public space, and I want to be the champion when it comes to our environment. I want to be the champion when it comes to how we look to invest into our future. So I'm going to be looking at healthcare, I'm going to be looking at education. But I'll definitely look at working on all these issues, but really it's going to be fiscal accountability to the people and then the environment.
Okay. As you know, President Trump won Idaho with about 60% of the vote. Trump was impeached by the House on cases of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. The Senate did not find him guilty. I'm curious, what would have been your vote in the impeachment trial?
Oh, I would have voted in favor of hearing out all those cases. I felt that there were actually 30 more cases in addition to those two that were presented. I felt that he should have been tried on all those cases. People should have been able to hear out the evidence, and I felt that the people's voices should have been heard. So I would have voted for the process of the hearing, first of all, because I feel that that should have been the first step in fairness, and then I definitely would have supported him to be impeached.
Okay.
I don't feel that we have protected the U.S. Constitution in that regard, and I don't think that anyone is above the law. Neither should the president. The president should not be above the U.S. Constitution. And when everyone swears an oath, they should adhere to protecting the U.S. Constitution.
In your run for governor, you spent about $420,000, which was about the total of your donations contributed. Can you tell us tonight that your campaign never had ties to or never will have ties to a super PAC?
Yes. Actually, I haven't taken any PAC money from my last campaign. We were actually very fortunate to have received so much support.
Can I clarify something? Never
Yes.
taking money, but had ties to a super PAC. Ties.
Had ties to...
Specifically.
Okay. Ties to spec? No, I don't have ties specifically. I don't run a PAC or ties to a super PAC. But I do have a tribe, my tribe that I'm enrolled with, who has contributed to a PAC.
In September 2018, your former campaign manager was accused of assisting the development of a super PAC called Strength and Progress, the one you just mentioned before. Your campaign sent $20,000 to a company in Wyoming with the same address of that very same super PAC. I think this would be a good time to clarify your association with that political action committee.
The Political Action Committee in Strength and Progress, that is a PAC that my tribe had certainly contributed to, and that was basically to support other congressional candidates across the country who are Indigenous. I think it had, and there's nothing illegal about it. Actually, it was very legal in the process. It's not a PAC that I control or have any authority over. But it is certainly one that I think is good for others to contribute to if they want to help other congressional Indigenous candidates, which I think was the aim. For the other group, what did you name the other group?
There was a company you sent $20,000 to that had the same address as that super PAC Strength and Progress. We're just wondering where that $20,000 went.
That went to a group that, I'm trying to think of the name, excuse me, can you recall the name?
I'm not sure. We didn't get a name. But we do know it's in Wyoming and has the same address as that super PAC called Strength and Progress. $20,000 went to it.
Yeah, it's actually a group name. I'm blanking on the name right now, but
It's
it's
okay.
an organization that we hired to basically phone bank on our behalf, and it's a Republican group. So a Republican firm that basically makes calls on behalf of the campaign to Republican constituents.
Do you think it's kind of suspicious that they have the same address, $20,000 going to a super PAC that you supposedly have connections to?
No, because they were both legitimate.
You would not only be the first female senator, if elected, you'd be the first Native American senator. What would it mean to you to win this election?
Hard work. It's a matter of getting out to the people and sharing the message.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a matter of millions. I think millions of dollars, because people say, well, your opponent has millions of dollars and he's a millionaire. I think it really comes down to getting to express your message and show the people the message that you stand on, the values and the principles and the level of integrity that you are carrying forth. And for those who are Republican, a lot of us are very well aware that there are polls that have shown many people leaving the Republican Party and now standing as independents or even leaning more progressive. So it's very clear to me that the culture is changing and people are starting to really read the writing on the wall and seeing what is happening at the national level, seeing that they have a president who is not adhering to the Constitution or law and is above the law in and of itself, and the manner of disrespect, and they're seeing that the culture of this country is changing. Kids are being locked up in cages. People, their rights are being disrespected and disregarded. Their dignity has been taken away. The prosperity or access to prosperity is fewer and far between per citizen in this country. So that wealth gap, those are the 1%, they are now streaming far ahead and away from us, so the rest of the country is becoming poorer and poorer. And I think that these struggles, these challenges that remain, people are starting to see this division through the corruption and the greed, and that's the frustration that people are faced with. And yet now they have an opportunity at this crossroads here in November 2020. And via that crossroads, they have an opportunity to right the ship back into the right direction.
Sure.
And that will be voting for candidates who represent them and who will fight for them. And I think this is a great opportunity for us here in Idaho.
All right, well, we'll give you this last moment here. Why should a person get out and vote for Paulette? This is coming, what is the election? I don't even know when the election is. Is it coming up soon?
Well, yes, in November.
Okay.
So November 2020, which is coming up. And I know, well, there's two elections. In fact, we have the May 19th primary, and then we have the November election. But May 19th, when that comes up, there's going to be primary on the Republican ticket and on the Democratic ticket. I hope people will vote on the Democratic ticket because we have to still get through the primary. And then when we get to the general, we will have an opportunity to unseat or defeat Senator Jim Risch.
Sure, right. Paulette, great to see you again. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Thank you very much.